I wanted to talk a little bit about playing fast. So playing fast is pretty cool on the violin. It always seems to get audiences really engaged, and it's exciting to watch and exciting to see. There's stories of um, performers going way back where in the middle of a concerto or sonata, a performer will finish the speedy passage, and the audience will just burst into applause. Um, it's just, like there's a variation in the Kreutzer Sonata number 9 from Beethoven. That's the middle movement has theme variations. One of the middle variations has a speedy passage. There's a story of, I think it's Joachim, where he played and the audience came to their feet and gave a huge applause because they enjoyed the very fast passage quite a bit. Also, I was seeing Lenny, Leonidas Kavakos play, and there's a movement that's a presto movement, and even though it was a Bach cycle, and you should probably just listen to the whole Bach sonata before you applaud. There was a fast movement, and everyone can contain themselves, and they were on their feet. Well, they weren't on their feet, but they stopped his sonata from coming to a finish because they were so excited they had to applause. So there is something sort of wonderful about fast passages, and there's a bravado to them, and people respond to them. And as a performer, I don't think fast passages are hard per se, but I think um, you can get in a bad habit of getting into um, as if you're driving a car and you're having cruise control and you can't stop a certain speed. So if you can't really control um, exactly when to throttle, when to come down in speed, not that you will, but if you can't control um, exactly what's going on in a fast passage, you're really not in control um, of that point in the piece, and you need to learn it better, basically. And learning it better is not necessarily just a speed run of it. It's to be honest, it's you need to know how to do a fast passage in all kinds of mental states. So it's of course advisable to do fast passages, to learn them slowly, and definitely don't only do them slowly, because when it comes to performance time, there is certain mechanics that happen only when you're in top speed. So if you were only to practice slowly, such as things that pedagogues say practice slowly, but neglect to practice fast, you're screwed. Because, and I've done this myself, where I just neglected a passage once, or not too recently, but I do remember I neglected to sort of bring it up to performance tempo, because I was just like enjoying practicing it slowly, and then came performance time, and when it was time to play it full speed, I hadn't had enough time playing full speed. So the bow basically was uncoordinated with the left hand. And because there's just, when you're going at a certain speed, whether it's slurred or spiccato or staccato, there's mechanics that happen with your left hand that you can't achieve when you're practicing slowly, détaché or something. So what I really wanted to talk about today is tricks to getting a passage that's fast uh, in in absolute cement in your mind and in your facilities. And I've come to lean on just some. I mean, these aren't secrets, but I just wanted to emphasize that there's some tricks that work for me, and I just use them, and they seem to work. So one of the tricks that I employ is to fancy the passage with rhythms. So there's all kinds of rhythms that you can do. Say you have four. Um, let's see. you have a four quarter notes per bar, and the passage is written as 16th notes. So I believe the presto that I was referring to with Cabacos has that. Um, so here you can do very strange rhythms in order to get your brain to understand all the little nuances that's going on. If you were just to practice it straight like that, um, you get pretty far, but you don't really have it learned inside out, and all this other stuff. So here's a rhythm that is kind of complicated. That it when you first try to do it, you'll probably need the music in front of you. If you have it memorized, you'll probably have to bring music in front of you because it's a little tricky. So you keep going like that all the way through. Another example is to do a rhythm, just a dotted rhythm. So um, and then reverse that. So that was short, long, short, long. This is long, short, long, short. And they're hard. The intonation really, um, like, if I had to sort of evaluate those couple runs I just did, the intonation is quite off. So when you have a passage that's not legato, yeah, you can get away with a lot of questionable intonations. But when you bring the rhythms into it, they stand out. You're like, oh wow, that's there's a section where I'm a little stretched here, and they're quite flat. So the rhythms help with intonation, and then also the coordination. You also find that there's parts of the passage that, with the rhythms, that they have a propensity to move forward, and usually move forward, but maybe there could be times where they're like on their heels quite a bit and they're not in rhythm. So at the end of that passage, there's a stressful moment because they're all sort of extensions, and I definitely speed up. So you have to really fight that. With the rhythms, it's helpful. Yeah, terrible intonation. So I'd have to really work that passage slowly with the rhythms and get that pretty nice sounding. If you're really having trouble, like I am right there, take the slurs out of it if it's a slurred passage, and just employ détaché strokes. Yeah, there's a section where you're in a non-position there. So, with fiddle playing, usually in a position. Once in a while, you extend and then get back to home base. You're in no man's land. You're sort of in second position and in fourth position at one point. So it's just something that it's not familiar, and that's why the hand and the body mechanics for me in that section are just like a little lost. So you have to almost come up with your own vocabulary for that physically. So rhythms is what I was going to say is really important for as far as a trick, and there's probably a couple other tricks that I could mention, but the rhythm seems to be the one for me that works the best. And then, and of course, practicing slowly too. If you were to listen to a very fast passage, you might get the sense, like if you listen to a recording of something, you might get the sense that it's extremely fast and sort of desirable. And you can definitely get your speeds up on passages, but I think more important is to be in control. So um, if you're at just at the top speed where you couldn't go any faster, I feel like you're probably not in control. So that means you couldn't go any faster, meaning you're just um, you're not even relying on control at that point. You're just relying on something else, relying on the heat of the moment, and that's a really bad state to get into because if you're just relying on the physicality of it, and the physicality is something that's muscle memory, of course, but you're losing because it's so fast. You're not in control, and you're not able to say, "Hey, let's in the moment. Hey, let's phrase this just slightly whimsically, where I take the dynamic down a little bit at the top of the phrase." I mean, those are the sort of decisions you make in performance time. But if you're just absolutely buckled in, and you're just going at it, you're probably not in control, and that is, I think, a really bad state to be in as a performance. And so, practicing with those rhythms and things like that, that enables you to sort of look at this moment in the piece in all kinds of different ways physically, and you're able to be in control. And that's the key. I remember playing with I won't mention her name, but she is a very talented pianist. I think she got into Curtis as a pianist. I think she claims she was the youngest accepted into Curtis at 8 years old or something like that. It's not impossible. She's an extremely smart lady. She became an amateur pianist after she went into medicine, and she got back to playing classical music sort of later in her life, after she was like, oh, medicine sucks. But she didn't. She had the chops, right? So she had chops from day one, and she was able to get back to playing piano, and her chops were there. Um, and I remember playing fast passages with her with some Beethoven trios. She couldn't control the speed. She had basically two gears. So if you have, well, maybe she only had one gear, which is like, I can only go as fast as my fingers can physically go. So, and then it was pretty fast. But as a chamber musician, it was sort of funny, because we were just like, this is not in the character of the piece, and we just had this pianist that was just like plowing through the notes, pretty, without question, pretty remarkably, but had no control over the physicality, um, and then thus no control over the musicality of what she was doing. So she just had her mode of just as fast as possible, and that's just, it was something in the brain, right? And I remember, as a younger man, that's kind of the way I approached fast passages too, where you just go as fast as possible, because it's almost easier. Like your body knows where the notes are, so you can just turn it on. And if you have a fiddle that can accommodate you, you're not going to have any hiccups. But you're not in control. That's my whole thesis here for this video: is you're not in control if you're in one mode, and you can only play passage sort of at top speed. Basically, you've learned it at top speed only. You don't know it very well. You could never slow down if the orchestra got ahead of you or behind you. It would just be something that was beyond your control. So take those notes regarding rhythms, listen to your intonation, get better intonation than what I just had, for shame. And try to really bring those moments in a piece where people enjoy them so much, to a point of excellence where it's just, astounding.